So hello and welcome. My name's Steve Nobel, and today I'm speaking with Marisol Jimenez Carrillo on activating your 5D abundant self. I hope I got that right. I was practicing, but I think I almost got it right, your name. Marisol is an intuitive sound, an energy healer, and a singer-performer. Guided by the spirit world, she channels healing light codes, vibrations, and frequencies, and brings them into effect by intuitive singing of sound and light language. And she creates music for the soul and guided meditations. She offers sound energy healing sessions worldwide, as well as online events, cosmic journeys, sound healing transmissions, and a healing circle for women called the Sacred Goddess Circle. Her website is marisol.vision, and it will be going out. A link will be going out with this podcast. So hi, Marisol.
Hi, Steve. Thank you so much for having me.
Our pleasure. Well, I've got a few questions about it. It's always a really hot subject, abundance. And how do you define abundance? Because the 3D world tends to define abundance as how much money you got in the bank, how big's your house, how big a car you're driving, you know, all that old stuff.
Yeah.
How do you feel? How do you define abundance?
So abundance for me, first and foremost, is an inside job. So it's a state of being, and if we don't tune into that vibration of abundance that we do carry within, then we're not going to experience outer things as abundant, because we'll still have that vibration of lack within us. So first and foremost, it is that state of being within. And then from that space, we can create in the outer world, and that then becomes so much more than money or the car or the house, which we can have and enjoy. But it also becomes the little things, like walking through nature, seeing the abundance of nature, seeing the smile of a child. It can be the little things that make you feel just abundant, that spark, that inner feeling of peace and gratitude. So yeah, it comes from within.
Great, wonderful. Yeah, I know growing up in the kind of 3D world, and my parents had lots of issues around money. And I think for a long time, even I worked in banking and these kind of places, but for a long time I carried that lack energy. You know, that it's as you mentioned, it's a vibration of lack. Yeah. If someone's coming from this deep place of scarcity or lack, how do we start shifting vibrationally to start getting even like glimmers at the beginning? I think it's like getting a glimmer, and then or almost like a flame of a candle that builds bigger and bigger. How do we do that?
Yeah, so what keeps us from really tuning into the abundance and stepping out of the vibration of lack are limiting programs and beliefs and thoughts that we hold. So, and these can come from our childhood or past parallel lives. And I mean, we are being programmed in the first 7 years of our lives. So you just mentioned your family, and if you grow up in a family where there is a vibration of lack, or you're being told you'll never be good enough, nothing you do is ever enough, that becomes a program that's running. But once we understand that those beliefs and programs and thoughts are not actually true, they feel very real, of course, but they are not actually true. So when we find a way to move through them, to dissolve them, to heal them, then we can shift into that abundant part, because that abundant part within us is never lost. We just sometimes disconnect from it. That means we're not in touch with it, but it doesn't mean it's gone, because the core of it we do carry within. So it's about shifting out of those programs and beliefs and thoughts and systems that we're in, and to then come back to what's actually our birthright and our soul's essence, that feeling and vibration of abundance.
Yeah, wonderful. Now, it's almost, I feel that parents give a transmission of abundance or lack to their children, even if they say nothing, you know.
Yeah.
And so I know in my own case, my parents did make comments about money that made me realize that they had a kind of lack programming going. But I've known wealthy people as well. And for example, two wealthy people, one came from a family where she got transmission of abundance and she lived an abundant life. And another person who came from a wealthy family got a transmission of scarcity in that family of money. And so we're getting, even if they say nothing, we're getting a transmission from our parents, even by their example, the clothes they buy, the kind of how they live their life. Are they spending joyfully? Are they, you know, actually someone I know, again, with lots of money, miserly. And so it's a transmission of miserliness. So it's almost like this transmission. How do we shift this transmission from our parents these programs, these beliefs, I guess it's awareness is probably the place to start. But what do you think, Marisol?
Yeah, as I've said, so it starts with awareness, exactly. So once we become aware that those are actually programs that we've taken on, but that our true self lies beneath that, that can open doors. So I sometimes say, if you think a thought and it feels bad, it's not true, because our higher self is not in alignment with it. So if you have thoughts of not being worthy, of not deserving, of not being enough this or that, those thoughts won't make you feel good. There will be some sort of contraction. And that means your higher self is not in agreement with that thought. So if we realize that we are actually not the thought, we are not the program, we are that which is beneath it, that can be a great sense of liberation, even if it takes some time to then move through those programs and beliefs, depending how deep they are. Some can be resolved very quickly, especially in the energy coming in now. Things can, I find, be shifted quicker than 10 years ago. I don't know how you experience it, but that's what I've experienced. And then from that space, go into the relationship you have with yourself and see if you can become gentler, become opener, become softer, and then you will slowly and gradually come to that place within that holds the abundance and the love for yourself.
Brilliant. Thank you. Well, I think I shared before our call that my parents had this idea, or used to give me the message that children are starving in Africa and I must eat my peas to help the world, as
Yeah.
if these peas are going to help those kids. So it's
Mhm.
almost like there's a belief that I know I created somewhere in me, that the more abundant I am, or the more I have, the less other people have. And it really took me a while to question it and go, for when I became aware of the belief, but initially I thought, but it's true, isn't it? And this was years ago. But now I realize actually I completely made that up and it was holding me back so much. I don't know if this is a common belief, but certainly I've heard other people say it. How about that one?
Yeah, I do. A lot of people have that. But if we understand that abundance in any way, be it money or whatever, is a frequency, and there's an infinite abundance, there's no end to it in this cosmos, in this universe. So there is enough for everyone. And we don't serve the world by staying in that vibration of lack, of thinking there's not enough for everyone. If we realize that it is infinite and live that way, the collective will benefit from that. So and if you shift into that in your own life and become abundant, you can be generous, you can help others, you can do all of that. But to realize that there is enough for everyone, and in the end, everyone is responsible for their own vibration. And I always say, honor everyone's path. So of course, we're witnessing things in the world that on a human level are very difficult for us to observe, especially if we're empathetic and we feel for those people. And there's great pain and suffering and lack. And it helps me to have that empathy, but to shift to that higher level and say, because I do believe that as souls, we do choose a certain path and a place where we're born, and to honor everyone's path with deep empathy, definitely. But that brings you into a different vibration, because if we suffer with people, we're not going to serve them. But if we honor their path and extend our love into the collective field, our empathy and our light, we will serve them much more than worrying about not enough for everyone, lack here, suffering there. So that's very important, I think, to shift in that way.
Yes, absolutely. I love the point around generosity, because I realized that the more abundant we are, the more we can help others, and channel abundance into really meaningful projects, So we're both spiritual entrepreneurs, and we both know the challenges and opportunities of that path. I mean, this question will relate to some people hearing it. Can you say something around your experience of shifting from a regular job? I mean, I know you're in the acting world, so people would say that's not even a regular job, but shifting from that world into the spiritual entrepreneur, what kind of challenges and opportunities did that path offer you?
So, I mean, I was never really employed in one place for a long time because, as you say, I was working in the theater world full time. So I went from project to project, and I was actually only employed in one place for 1.5 years. That was the longest period, where I was like, whoa, I'm getting a paycheck now every month for 1.5 years. And before that, I was moving from project to project. So I've never really had the experience of having one place paying me over a longer period of time, over many years. So that made it easier for me to shift into now building my own business and everything that comes with it. But of course, the challenge is that you are responsible of everything. Like, you take care of everything before at some point you have someone, maybe an assistant or something. So you're being confronted with so many things that can be so overwhelming. So a key thing for me has been, and still is, to keep moving deeper into my trust of my path. And that even when I have to deal with things that are difficult or where I don't have a solution straight away, to keep releasing, to keep trusting, and to keep moving in that way of inspiration, and knowing that I'm on the right path, trusting that doors will open and solutions will come. So it's about releasing that fear of, what if this doesn't, what if that doesn't, and how do I do this? So to release those fears and worries and just say, I actually then go in my mind, what if everything works out? And I'll feel my mind shift and I'll let it go. And then something will come up and solve it. So yeah, that's been an important key issue.
I know you're doing an event on abundance very soon. And you said it on the event page, as we are moving forward in the ascension process, we are all confronted with the parts of ourselves which still hold the vibration of lack, and in any way where we are doubting ourselves and our abilities. So again, this is like, one part of us may be walking in trust, but another part may be foot on the brake, I suppose. What about this issue when you've got parts of us who are kind of like scared, maybe smaller parts, inner child parts, more vulnerable parts? What about those parts?
Well, I think it's important to realize that it is a process. It's not just a switch you flip and you're like, oh, okay, all doubt is gone, all this is gone. So also healing, I find, happens in layers. It's not a straight line. So I find myself also moving into deeper and deeper layers of trusting myself, of being seen, of all of these things that come with it. So if we feel a part arise that maybe is still in doubt or has moments of, oh my God, can I really do this? Oh my God, am I really good enough? Do I really know enough? It's always really good to sit with that part, to not push it away, to not condemn it, but to sit with it, because there's a difference whether that doubt pops up like in your everyday life and you kind of push it away and you don't really want to deal with it, or if you actually sit down and give it space and say, okay, come join me. Where do I feel you in my body? Are you clenching my throat? Is it in the gut of my stomach? Where do I notice this part of me, and what does it need? And to sit with that, because when you feel it, you'll soften up, and there's great power in holding space for yourself, for what you're feeling, and then to gently move through those phases and waves. And then you'll get there bit by bit and deeper by deeper. Deeper by deeper, deeper and deeper, I mean, yeah.
Deeper and deeper.
Yeah.
It sounds very much, because what you're talking about, trust, because you mentioned it a few times, I think what you're saying is really for people to drop from their mind, like they need a plan, they need the whole thing, where will I be in 5 years, 10 years, the whole minded thing, into a heart space, which is more, well, I don't actually know, but I trust there's a higher power guiding me. And I don't know about you, but what I found is moving out of my mind into my heart, but then actually try and later bring my mind along with it, because so many people jettison the mind, going, I had someone tell me, my ex-partner tell me, I don't want to think, I just want to feel. And this was just so, I think, quite typical of some people. They kind of ditch the mind, but we do need to bring it back in at some point, don't we? Would you say?
Yeah, definitely. It needs to be in coherence. So definitely sink into the heart. And it's, what is that saying? Don't be the slave of your mind. There's a saying, I don't remember how it goes, but so that the mind serves us and we don't become the slave of it. Because of course we're here to use our mind, but then to go beyond the logical linear thinking and what you just said, drop into the field of our heart to receive that guidance. Because we're so conditioned in our society. Like you said, we need to make a plan, 5-year plan, 10-year plan. We need to buy the house. We need to do this and this and this. and everything's like so set, and if you like don't make it, you failed, and that's a big part of how society works if you put it like in a nutshell, in a cliche, how it often is. But we see now that the old is crumbling around us, and what people thought was stable and maybe what gave them a sense of security no longer is on stable ground. Everything's shaking. So it's about a new stability that we have to find within ourselves that nobody can take from us, that is not dependent on the outside world. And when we come to that place and ignite that flame of our own power, that's something nobody can take from us. And that's actually a really freeing place to be in, because it allows you to step out of that fear vibration, to still witness things, but to also go big and dream big and not be afraid to create, not be afraid to stand out. Yeah, so that I find very freeing.
Brilliant. Can you say something about your work with people? I know you work with sound and voice around this issue of scarcity abundance.
Yeah, so when I work with people, it's a mixture of energy healing and the sound healing that flows together. So we do work on releasing and healing limiting beliefs and patterns and programs going into them. Sometimes I even assist people in opening up those thoughts in a field where the sound moves into them, kind of infuses them, begins to dissolve them. So I integrate it all into a guided inner journey, and I receive certain images for the person in that moment. And the way the sound works is that I sing intuitively, and so the sound will hold the frequencies and the vibrations and codes that are specifically for that person. So it assists them in also dropping into their heart space, to opening their heart space, and to connecting to a depth of their being that they're maybe not used to connecting to anymore, or haven't done in a long time. To not be afraid and to really experience that space within, and to feel and to experience what it feels like when you do come into alignment with your inner being, with the core of your being, so that that may expand out and that you open that space from within. So yeah, I assist people in doing that so that they find their way back to their own power and light, and of course very gently, for everyone in the way that it's right for them in that moment.
Brilliant. So Marisol, I know you've got a meditation you're offering alongside this interview. Can you just say something about that meditation?
Yeah, so it has the same title as the podcast, Activating Your 5D Abundant Self. And so when I record meditations, I know the topic, but I record them intuitively, so I don't write it down beforehand. So I speak it in the moment. And it's a meditation to assist whoever is listening to it to do exactly this, to be infused by the light and the sound. It moves into your mental body, your emotional body, all layers of your being. There's a clearing and cleansing to move into thought patterns and beliefs and programs that may still be holding you back. And it assists you in dropping into the space of your heart and receiving and experiencing the vibration of abundance.
Brilliant. Now, I know you do regular events, so anyone interested, marisol.vision, and the link will go out with the podcast. So Marisol, a great pleasure chatting with you. It's a subject that I think a lot of people are going to find really interesting. So.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, abundance is everywhere around us, and we're called to step into that now. And for everyone personally, what does that mean? And how can I tune in? So thank you so much for inviting me on this topic.
Sure.